welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and I'm just going to be recording a quick vlog clip in here introducing you to what I'm going to be reading this week for the second week of Victober. My shelves are an absolute mess. One of the things I'm going to be working on this week is like re-cleaning, reorganizing, all that kind of stuff, and hopefully also giving you a bookshelf tour as well. That's in the plans, so keep an eye out on that. Hopefully that will actually happen. I keep saying I'm going to, and I haven't. So what am I reading right now? Right now I am reading still Nicholas Nickleby. Really enjoying this. Dickens has the best character names of all times. Like, there's a villain in this book called Wackford Squeers, and he's like this evil schoolmaster, and like, what a great name. And then there's a guy that's an assistant to the main character's uncle, and his name is Newman Noggs. And I just love it. That sounds like a name I would come up with. I love it so much. I gotta share this quote with you. I'll keep the names out so it's spoiler free, although I'm not that far in, 162 pages according to this edition. And someone is like dropping to their knees at someone else's feet, and the person says, "Why do you kneel to me?" And the other person replies, "To go with you, anywhere, everywhere, to the world's end, to the churchyard grave." Replied, redacted, clinging to his hand, "Let me, oh do let me. You are my home, my kind friend. Take me with you, pray." And I was just like, you're my home, my true friend. I just love it. I'm really loving the dynamics in this book already. Shocker. If this is not a 5-star, I'm gonna be so surprised. Next up, I am almost done with 3 Men in a Boat. Today is Sunday, so if I finish this today, I can start the other books I need to start tomorrow on time. I'm in the last chapter, so I'm for sure gonna make it through this. This is a lot of fun. It's really, really funny. There are a lot of side tangents, and every side tangent feels like a bit. It feels like stand-up comedy almost, in a way. We're like, we're doing this, which reminds me of the time that this happened. And honestly, I love the dog, Montmorency. He's so funny. There's a whole chapter about why he hates cats and a cat that scared him and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, I love it. It's so funny. I'm also currently reading The Carver and the Queen by Emma C. Fox. This is an Owl's Nest publishing. It actually came out this past week. It came out on the 3rd of October, and this was an ARC I received, and I'm just now getting to it, which I feel terrible about, but I'm gonna finish it this week, hopefully. I'm this far. So 100 pages in, it's about 300 pages long. This is a YA fantasy with hardcore Russian vibes. Like, look at that cover. It's amazing. It's based on a fairy tale, I think, or a folklore tale about the Malachite queen. So that's really interesting. She like lives under the mountain, and there's stone carving going on with malachite, and this girl and this boy and their desire to carve, and it's just really interesting. I don't really know where it's going, but it's got some kind of like eerie, unsettling vibes with this queen who is like ghostly and appears and has a really bad reputation of luring people to their doom. She's got her eyes on the main male character, which you see from the very first chapter, so that's not a spoiler. So those are the only books that I'm currently in progress. I will finish 3 Men in a Boat today. I would love to finish The Carver and the Queen today as well, because I have 2 books that I need to start tomorrow. One of which is Under the Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy. I'm going to be reading this with my friend Joanna, and I'm so excited. I haven't read a Hardy yet this year, and I need to. And I'm really, really excited to read this one. It's a very itty bitty one. I actually recommended it in my Victorian Classics under 300 pages video. I'll link that in case you didn't see it. If you're looking for a short Victorian classic to squeeze in this Victober, this would be a great one. I've heard that this one's really good, and also that it is less sad than a lot of his books, which I find kind of hard to believe, because every Hardy I've read, even the happier one like Far From the Madding Crowd, which is for sure less depressing than his other books, still had quite a strong element of tragedy to it. So really looking forward to that. Also, I lied to you. I have read a Hardy this year. I read Return of the Native this summer. So never mind. I have read a Hardy, but I'm reading another one. And then I also need to start One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovitch. This is for Christy Lewis's Short Classics for Charity book club. And this is a book that's been sitting on my shelves for a really long time. I think it's around 200 pages. And this is about what a day in the Gulag would have looked like. And so I'm really interested to read this one. I've heard from people who have already started it that it's very gripping and very haunting. So I think it's gonna be a really good read. So those are my plans for this week. I will check in with you soon and let you know my progress and my final thoughts on books that I hopefully will finish this week. Everyone, it is now the end of the week, so you're just now getting an update. I didn't have a chance to film one earlier, but I did want to wrap this vlog up because I finished a few things. I am filming inside and I have 2 cats in here, so hopefully they're not distracting. I can hear one of them purring. She's so happy that I'm sitting near her. Giselle, she's so happy she's purring right now. Anyways, so I did finish a few things. I didn't finish everything I wanted to finish, but I'm going to talk about what I am ending the week on. So the first book that I finished was in fact 3 Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. This was just a lot of fun. I just really enjoyed this. I feel like it just came at the right time when I needed to read something that was just really funny. I think I've already mentioned that in some ways it just feels like it's almost like this stand-up comedy routine because they're on this journey and these things are happening that remind the narrator of something else that happened, and he's like, yeah, and so like literally everything is a bit and it's really funny. I really enjoyed it. Not everything landed perfectly for me, which is fine, but it was just a lot of fun. I do think that this one, although I did listen to some of it on audio, I think it's actually better physically because he jumps around so much that it can be really easy to be like, wait, are we still in present day or are we somewhere else? And so I do think that this is a book that might be better read physically unless you're super good at attending when you are listening on audio. The other book that I just finished this morning, and that is One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovitch. And whew, this book is something else, honestly. It started out and I was having kind of a difficult time with it because you are literally following this man in the gulag for one day and what that looks like. So as a result, you're just dropped right down in this with not a lot of context, but things do become more clear and are explained more as we go on. But at the beginning, I was just kind of like, wait, what? And also, like, a lot of Russian literature that I read is written in a time period that is much older than this. And so the way certain things were phrased and the amount of strong language in this book, like, really took me aback at first because I was just like, oh yeah, this book was written in the 60s about life in the gulag in the 40s, not, you know, in the 1800s, like a lot of other things that I've read about Siberia or things like that. So this is definitely set in a different time period, so it definitely feels different. The writing feels different. It's much more simplistic, I think, but also I feel like it was very thought-provoking and it made me feel very grateful for my life, especially food, because the way that he talks about food in this book is just insane. So they get very little food in this prison, which is to be expected, and they skimp more and more as much as they can help it, while people who are in charge basically skim off the top all the things that they're trying to skimp on for the other prisoners. So when our main character gets food, He eats it really, really slowly. And he says, food eaten quickly isn't food. It does no good, doesn't fill you. And then later he says, in the camps he often remembered how they used to eat at home in the village. Potatoes by the panful and pots of kasha. And in the early days before that, great hunks of meat. And they swilled enough milk to make their bellies burst. But he understood in the camps this was all wrong. You had to eat with all your thoughts on the food, like he was nibbling off these little bits now, and turn them over on your tongue and roll them over in your mouth. And then it tasted so good, this soggy black bread. What had he eaten this 8 years and more? Nothing at all, but the work he'd done on it. And I was just like, my goodness, the way that food is written in this is just, you feel the scarcity, but you also feel the gratitude he has when he is able to get more food than normal, or get off a punishment he thought he was getting, or get a work position that he doesn't hate as much as others, or being part of a team where maybe he's being treated a little bit better, and the gratitude he feels when even the tiniest thing goes a little bit less wrong than it normally does is just insane to me. And it's kind of convicting about how frustrated I get over inconveniences and first world problems when I am so fortunate. So this book really caused a lot of reflection in me, and I'm really excited to discuss this with Christy Lewis's book club tomorrow, which will be today when this video comes out. So beyond those, I am still working on Nicholas Nickleby, which is obviously gonna take a while. I'm this far though, so I'm like probably about a third of the way through. Still really enjoying it. I did start Under the Greenwood Tree, but I haven't gotten that far. I'm only like 3 chapters in because I've really been prioritizing Ivan Denisovitch, because there is like a book club meeting I'm going to for it. So that was the one I wanted to finish. So I'm not very far at all. But the first paragraph of this book is unreal. The way that he writes about trees and the people living in this forest. It says, to dwellers in a wood, almost every species of tree has its voice as well as its feature. At the passing of the breeze, the fir trees sob and moan no less distinctly than they rock. The holly whistles as it battles with itself. The ash hisses among its quiverings. The beech rustles while its flat boughs rise and fall. And winter, which modifies the note of such trees as shed their leaves, does not destroy its individuality. And I just love that opening paragraph about how not only do trees look distinctively, but they sound distinctive, and how people who live around them all the time can easily recognize that. And I just really like that. I thought it was a really good opening. I don't know fully what this story is about yet, to be honest. It's about these country people, and they're getting ready to practice for a choir, and that's as far as I've gotten with that so far. And it's Christmas time in the winter, and that's really all I know so far, but I'm really liking it so far, and I'm really hoping to get back to it very soon. Maybe I'll finish it over the coming weekend. We'll see. Lastly, the other book that I was working on is The Carver and the Queen by Emma C. Fox. As you can see, I'm about this far, probably not quite halfway, but getting there, maybe more of a third of the way, somewhere in that range. I have sadly decided to soft DNF this book for right now because I'm really, really struggling with it, and I don't know why. I feel like it must be me because it has all the elements in a book that I want. We've got this Russian atmosphere. It's a fairy tale retelling of a fairy tale I'm not even familiar with, and it just sounds so interesting. But I can't bring myself to really get into the story. Like every time I sit down to read it, it's a struggle for me to get through even one chapter. It's just not holding my attention. And I can't figure out why. I can't figure out if it's just not the right time for me to be reading this, and so I'm not in the right mood, or if it's the writing itself. It feels like it's very descriptive, not like flowery descriptive, but just telling you what every single thing looks like some of the time. And I think that kind of pulls me out of the story a little bit because sometimes the descriptions feel too lengthy for me, but that might just be my mood. I don't really know. I can't tell. So I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to try it again another time because it might just be me. Also, I don't know if this is part of the reason why, but in the description of the book, it mentions something that happens to the main character, Peter, and I'm this far in the book and it still hasn't happened. So it feels very slow burn with where we're going with that as well. I don't want this to scare you off of reading this book because Owl's Nest Publishing puts out phenomenal books. So far, I've really only read the K.B. Hoyle books that they've put out, and this is a different author, obviously, but I really just applaud their effort to put out YA books that truly are for YA and are appropriate for teenagers, even younger teenagers. I'm so impressed with that, because I think that YA nowadays is so often trying to push the envelope and put as much language or gratuitous content in there as they can, with the excuse, well, kids are hearing that everywhere anyways, and they're seeing it everywhere anyways, and they're probably sleeping with people and all that stuff. And it's like, even if that's true, does that mean we have to absolutely permeate every aspect of media with that to make them feel like it's even more normal? I don't know, like, and I don't think it's true for everyone either. I think that there are a lot of people younger people who are not living that way. And so it's just, it's frustrating when I have a daughter who is pretty advanced in her reading, and she is only, you know, like a year and a half, 2 years away from being a teenager, and she's gonna outgrow middle grade. And I want to be able to give her something that's appropriate for 13 or 15-year-olds to read. And a lot of the YA stuff that's coming out is more geared toward college students than it is high school students. And that's really unfortunate. So I appreciate so much what Owl's Nest Publishing does for that very reason. So I'm going to hang on to this for Claire for sure, but also I'm going to try it again at some point and see if I'm able to just get into it more, because maybe just, you know, sometimes it's like right book, wrong time kind of thing, and it's not the book's fault, it's your fault. And so maybe that's the case, because on paper, everything about this book sounds like something I should love. Well, that's my wrap up for this vlog. That's what I've been reading this week. I'd love to hear from you. What have you been reading lately? Have you read any of the books that I've been reading? If so, what are your thoughts? Similar, different? Always love chatting with you guys in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.